Welcome back to another episode of the Foreign Insight Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Obi. Joining me is a young lady who's made strides in the entrepreneurship realm. And so we're going to pick her brain and get some of her insight in that regard because we have not had an entrepreneurial episode in quite some time. She has her own business entity and she does consulting as well as mentorship for other young entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. Without further ado, Ms. Vanessa Zamy. How are you?
Hello. Yes. Thank you for having me, Michael. And actually, I do consulting mentoring for young and not necessarily old, but I have actually seem to be attracting a lot of clients or not seem to, but I attract a lot of clients who are, mothers with either older kids. I also have clients who are mothers with young kids. And then I also have people who are just, living their life free without knowing about themselves. So it definitely is a range, but yes. So happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you for coming on. Well, let's get right into it then. Where I always like to start off every episode with every guest is just to give the listeners a bit of background as to who they're listening to. So go into that a little bit for our viewers. How did we get here? Who is Vanessa Zamy and what is it that you do?
Yes. So I coach, consult, and advise 9-to-5ers on how to build their profit-producing, purpose-driven business with my consulting company, Your Vision's Catalyst. And the way I got there was through different myriad of experiences and situations. But really, the mission of Your Vision's Catalyst is to help less people die with regret. And by helping you, giving you the resources and tools that you need to keep moving forward in your business, right? To keep moving forward in your purpose, to keep moving forward in the legacy building generational wealth that you are meant to and bring forth into the world. And how that came about is while living my life, seeing my mother, struggle, right, and be miserable. And it wasn't until a couple of years ago where I was connecting with my aunt, her older sister. And essentially my aunt was telling me that my mother was like, my mother comes from Haiti. So not American born, so I'm first generation American born. But essentially my mother was like apparently at the top of her class and this whole situation, like, ooh, she was like, like all this stuff, right, about this woman. And if you had met me here today, like you just would have never guessed that. Like it's just not like you would just never have guessed that was part of her story, right? And the thing is that there are many people like that. So what happened, right? What happened in between? And the thing is that it's like the dream deferred, right? A dream deferred and like little down to nothing at the end of the day. And unfortunately, it's a story of many people, right? Where you had something you wanted to do 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or maybe even last year. You were like, no, next year, next decade, whatever. And now you're here today, just going through motions, right? Going through motions, know that there's something more for you in life. And then you have the side where you then decide to do it, but then you're struggling. We're probably go into that a little bit more in detail today about how you can unstuck yourself, so to speak, in your business. But that is what Your Vision's Catalyst is really about, right? It's about catalyzing your vision. That name is intentional, right? That name means something. And that's what that name means to me. And that's what I enjoy doing with my clients in terms of helping them to keep moving forward in their business and keep moving forward in what it is that they're meant to do.
No, absolutely. That's great. And, just your description, I think is something that not just your mother or your aunt, but I think many people, as you talked about, really go through is that they go through life and they go through the motions, or they go through life kind of lost, not really knowing what they want to do. So then they do what's comfortable for them, right? To do the regular 9-to-5. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with working at 9-to-5. Most people in life will work at 9-to-5. But for those who really have the dream of being their own boss or being an entrepreneur, they never really get the legs, they never get the courage, they never get the resilience to want to take that step and take that leap of faith, so to speak, and they end up, going through life and they never, went after what they really wanted, went after the goals. And as a result, there's this big void that they feel like is missing whenever they get to the end, where it's like, man, I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have went and started that business that I would have wanted to start, or I wish I would have taken that investment, taken that venture, and they never do it. And so I think it's great that, you created something that helps people kind of kickstart it and get the ball moving and helps them chase their dreams, so to speak.
Absolutely. Right. And that's what it's about. And as you mentioned, right, there's nothing wrong with doing your 9-to-5 job and living in a cubicle. There's nothing wrong with that. It's when you're sitting here hating your Mondays. It's when you're sitting here, driving to work miserable. It's when you're sitting here knowing that there's something more for you out there, but you're just not moving forward in that. Right. That's the part, right, that we try to fix, right? That's the part that needs to be fixed. That's the part that needs to be transformed and changed.
Absolutely. So now just talk about Your Vision's Catalyst. All right. This is your entity. How did you get to having your own consulting firm that you created, you started, and now you own? How did we get here?
Absolutely. So how did we get here? So pretty much, essentially, I was that person. So I actually had spent 10 plus years working in the nonprofit space. And the whole idea of me transitioning into the corporate America space was like, oh, I'm going to work in corporate America. And then I'm going to then take that knowledge and bring it to the nonprofits because they support, which they do. They still do. But essentially, that was the whole idea there. Okay, cool. So then I entered corporate America. I had a coveted job in the beginning. I mean, literally my first like corporate America, like full-time salary job, whatever, was essentially 2.5 times the salary, like 2.5 times annual wages. So my mother works hourly wage jobs as a nurse's aide, and it was 2.5 times like what her annual wage would ever be, right? And that was the first start, right? And then from there, it just kept increasing, right? Just kept increasing from there. But the thing is that I was then, okay, so I was like, all right, I got this. Oh my God, look at me living the life in California. With this paying job, right? Okay, cool. So then I hop into, the financial advisor office. I'm like, okay, financial advisor, here's my goals. Okay. And they were like, yeah, no, see, what you need to do is you're going to need to like just save for retirement. And then maybe, but not really likely, you'll be able to like get this house or like, maybe. Okay. I was like, okay. Anyways, fast forward, I then get a job with a 14% salary increase. I switched companies. Okay. Go to a financial advisor. Yeah, it's just not, really just focus on retirement. And then when you're 65, then you'll be able to do. And I was just like, okay, what in the world? Like, how am I making more money and still in the same predicament, right? Exactly. And then I was a third financial advisor after I got like a even higher 20% salary increase. And it was the same story. But essentially, fast forward, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad because essentially at this point, I'm just like, oh my, like, I don't get how I'm making more, but I'm still in the same, like, well, you can maybe achieve your goals, but not really. Right. And so then I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I realized there was this world beyond the world, right? There was a world that I wasn't familiar with that was actually accessible, right? And the thing is that I had been in California at the time, and I heard the term entrepreneurship, and I had been around Silicon Valley, but even being there, I still didn't, like in my mind, it still wasn't a thing that, oh, I can do entrepreneurship. Like it still wasn't something that I believed for myself, so to speak, right? Or that I believe was like possible or accessible. And then I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was like, oh, it's just problem solving and like doing it. I was like, oh, I could do this. And not only can I do this, this is actually like the answer to what I've been, all these things that the financial advisors are telling me that I can't do, right? And so that was sort of the piece there. And then there was actually my friend who had hired me to help her out as a like executive producer, project manager, as she was starting a podcast. And actually I had a salary job at the time, a W-2. And so she was like hiring me outside of that job. Right. And so that also was an introduction to that in terms of my mind. Oh, I can get hired outside of my job stuff. Oh my gosh. Oh, whoa, look at that. And then I remember Poor Dad. And then essentially at that time, then at some point, a couple months later, I just woke up with the idea of your business catalyst. And I was just I just woke up on a Sunday morning and I was just typing away. I was in a trance. I kid you not, I was in a trance. I was just typing stuff. I was like, oh yeah, this is it. Like to catalyze people's dreams and the vision. And like, yes. Yeah, I was typing away. And it was literally like, it was like 3-4 hours later. I like got, I looked up and I was like, wait, what just happened? Like, what was that? Right. But that was the beginning of it. Right. And then essentially that week I got a PO box, got my business registered. Week after that, got the, hired a logo designer and flyer, essentially less than 30 days, less than 4 weeks. Got all that stuff together. Got it registered, got it set up, and it was like, cool. Now time to get clients. But essentially, that was, that's how it all started. That's okay.
No, I think it's so funny because it's like most people who get into entrepreneurship that I've either seen or known or understood, there's always that they start off in a career and it's just leaving them unfulfilled. Like they start off, okay, I'm making a salary job, and they're hearing bosses tell them, oh, well, you're only capped at this. This is your potential. I'm going to dictate to you what you're worthy of getting. And there's something in them that's like, nah, I'm worth and I'm destined for more. And then they go and they try these jobs, and they're generally, from what I've seen, they're the workers who either are not bought in or they're flaky, or they always say, oh, this one's a troublemaker, because they don't do things and they don't, submit to the way that I do things. And so then naturally, the only way for them to really be fulfilled and for them to really be successful is for them to be their own boss and to really start their own thing and build it from scratch and use all that energy into taking something that is so minor and building it into what they want it to be. So it's great to, kind of hear that story and know that first off, it's very common, and, you were able to accomplish what you set out to do.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that I'm actually a really great employee. Like, I'm actually a really amazing employee. And that was the issue, where it was very much like essentially my work was really amazing. My work was really great, but they just couldn't quite place it. I just didn't belong. I just didn't belong in that environment. This is something else, and so I would get a lot of like comments, like the feedback and a review was about my personality. Right. And the thing is, I was just like, it was always something related to my personality in some sort of way, right? Yeah. And meanwhile, I'm dealing with bosses, and I'm just like, how are you a boss? Like, what in the world got you to this today that you out here? Like, I'm confused, But that's all another story. But I say that out loud, I say it out loud. But essentially, at the end of the day, it was very much like I would always. Like, my work ethic is amazing, right? Like, that's how I'm able to get promoted and get, move around and all that stuff, because my work ethic is amazing. But there was always like a battle to like get to the next level. It was always like a struggle. And it was like, why is this like I'm performing great work? Like, I don't get what the gap is, right? And it's common for women. It's very common for Black women, and for Black women and men in general as well too, right? For people of color in general, right? In terms of, it's just the environment that you're trying to fit yourself in. And that was another thing as well too, that I realized as I was like, a couple of months or like a year into Your Business Catalyst, where I was on a panel, and I realized like what had happened to me was that in corporate America, I actually lost myself. Like, I used to be from Brooklyn, New York. Like, listen, I was a confident person. I was walking down the street as a head held high, etc. But then when I got to corporate America and having to adjust myself and like having to be a certain way, and then you do that and you're still not accepted. You're still not, it is still a struggle and a battle. And that was just not okay. Right. And it was like company after company. And then meanwhile, I remember essentially I had this like terrible boss. And it wasn't so much that he was like, it wasn't a race thing. Like, he literally was just a terrible boss. It was literally just like, he just looked out for number one. And it was like, how did you end up being a leader of other people? Like, how did you end up as a direct report, right? With direct reports, right? He was looking out for number one, right? But that meant taking my ideas. That meant like, I kind of felt like I was competing with him, but he's like 3 levels above me, right? And so it was a very interesting relationship. And I was just like, this cannot be, like, this is a sign, right? And before that job, I had been in consulting, where I worked on like 8 different projects, 8 different team leads, right? And so it was like 8 different jobs all in one. And it was just like, how, like, this is a sign. This is someone trying to tell me something. Like, and then the rich dad poor dad, in the moment I woke up, it was just all the kindness of that. But I'm actually a very amazing employee. It's just not a fit in the environment that I'm supposed to be. So.
Now, I honestly believe most entrepreneurs do make great employees. I think you have to have that type of work ethic if you're really going to say that you're going to build your own thing, and you're going to take all the time, you're going to put in all the resources, all the energy, all the effort. You have to have a level of work ethic and a level of cooperativity, because it's not like you're only going to be up by yourself. If you're going to own a business where you're going to be employing others, you're going to have to know how to think like an employee. You're going to have to know how employees think, how people think, how people interact and have an emotion. So, I think that most entrepreneurs do make good employees. They just don't have there's a part of them that is saying to themselves, there's something more. I think that's the only difference. And especially one thing you brought up is when you deal with the boss who you're just like, how are you a boss? And I think many people go through that. It's like, I'm trying to be politically correct here, but just, I know I shouldn't be working under you, right? And I need to do something else. And I think that's most people's moment of realization, where they're like, okay, let me just do this on my own. If he can do it, or if she can do it, then so can I, right? And let me just take it upon myself.
Exactly. Absolutely. And then, then at some point, but there's still the struggle. It's still a struggle between, let's say you go from an employee to now being an employer, right? Because you build your business. Well, the people I work with, we do the smart thing. We build a business while doing a day job. Unfortunately, some people make the mistake where they just go straight into it day one, and they realize it's not day one success, people. It does take time, money, and energy. But essentially, to that point, you decide to start your business, right? And you decide to go out and be a solopreneur, and you balance it all and all that stuff, right? At some point, when it comes time, I actually just had a conversation with a client literally like 2 hours ago about this. We were discussing, like, is it time for her to quit her day job now, right? Based on like where she is in her business, and based on just like, I mean, it's skyrocketing, right? Like, her business is literally like, she's getting referrals, like, and it's just like, it's to the point where her day job is taking away money from her business, right?
Oh.
Not time. A lot of people are like, oh, let me quit. If I quit my day job, I would have so much more time and I'll be so much more successful. If you can't make work with the time that you got, having more time is not going to help you.
No.
There are full-time entrepreneurs who come to me like, I just don't have the time. They have 40 hours a week. They're like, I don't have the time. Like, so, time is not your issue, right? But for her, it became the point where it is the point, essentially at the time that we're talking about this, but essentially it is the point where she's literally having to like slow down her client services and getting new clients because she's like, I just don't have the space in the calendar for these new clients, right? But that's essentially leaving money on the table, right? And so at that, I was like, so is it time for you to have a connection with your spouse, your husband, and just pose the question, what would happen if you quit your job? And so, but it's very much like, and now actually we started her in terms of hiring someone as well too, right? And getting that additional support too, in terms of that's where she has things that she can offload. And so, actually just before I call, I just sent her like, the job description and stuff that I did as I was getting my team together as well too. So, but it's one of those things where making that transition from employee to employer is even another battle. Like once you decide to say yes to your business, how do you then make that transition? So.
Yes. Now let's talk about that transition that you're talking about, going from being a person who works a 9 to 5, that mentality, to now being an entrepreneur. To me, what I see is that, look, when you decide to take on being an entrepreneur, you're working basically, I don't want to say 24/7, but the days of 40 hours a week are gone. Right. Most people think, if I just own my own business, that means I can work less and own it. No. I think it was either Kevin O'Leary.
One day, but not today. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was Kevin O'Leary or Mark Cuban who said, I stopped working 40 hours a week so I can work 60 hours a week in owning my business. And I was like, dang, but that's so true, because it's just as competitive, especially with different types of entrepreneurship. It's no longer just owning a business, but real estate, and then now social media. People are exploiting that method of entrepreneurship. Being content creators and owning their own entities, and then through being content creators, they start to own their own clothing brands, their own different types of materials. So, I mean, it's competitive out there, and people really have to understand that the investment. But just talk about that, if you will.
Yes. So it is a competitive space, but what business comes down to, and what I connect with a lot of my clients, are business fundamentals, right? Like this, it's not like business is actually not that complicated, right? It's not complicated. People make it complicated so you can stop yourself from actually moving forward, right? You get yourself in a whole spin of questions that you spend like 6 months on, that you literally could have had to answer in like 2 seconds. Like there are people who literally get on the phone with me and they're like when they first started out, they're like, okay, I've been wondering about this whole thing about like LLC stuff. I've been thinking about it. Like there was one person who literally said that she was thinking about her company name. And when she got to that point, she ended up stopping on moving forward in her business because she just couldn't figure out a name for the company. 6 months later, she hops on the phone with me and she's literally telling me that she literally like stopped on her business because she couldn't figure out a name for the company. Like, what? No, right? Like that's, and it's one of those things where a lot of people doing that though. There are a lot of people doing that, right? And the thing is that business is actually not that complicated. It comes down to 2 things: marketing and sales. Yeah. Marketing and sales. That's really what it comes down to, right? And the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter what else everyone else is doing, because as long as you have the right message, as long as you're connecting with the right people, your people who will resonate with your message and your business and your product and your service, nothing else matters, right? There are 8 billion people in the world. There are 8 billion people in the world. Right. And so you, what do you say?
Somebody's out of 8 billion people, somebody's going to gravitate toward your message.
Precisely. Exactly. Right. 8 billion people in the world, 320 million people in the US alone. Like someone will gravitate towards you. Right. And it's one of those things where that's why content just does not matter. Key is marketing and sales. Right. Having the right message, connecting it with the right people. Right. And you will be on the right path, right, with your business. And the thing is that like, that's the simplicity of it. Now, it is a little difficult, right? What is the right messaging, right? Like what is the right audience, blah, blah, blah. But once you do all that, it all actually is like not that complicated, folks. It's marketing and sales, right? And then you have to be consistent with that and focus and all that other stuff too. And I do want to address though, something you mentioned in terms of the 60 hours versus 40 hours. I would like to say the biggest misconception of entrepreneurship that I address is a conception that the myth that people are saying, like, you got to burn the midnight oil. You have to burn the bridges, right? You have to like quit everything and go all out, right? We already addressed that one. But the second one in terms of, to burn the midnight oil, you to like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. every single night, 2 hours of sleep. Like that's what you gotta do. OMG. That's not a thing, folks. I'm not saying that's not a thing. That is a thing. That's a wrong thing, right? At the end of the day, I'm not of that belief. And actually, that's what I talk to my, it's what I like to say. It's not, it's not hustling that's bad. It's how people are hustling that's a problem, right? It's not hustling that's bad. It's how people are hustling. That is the problem, right? And because at the end of the day, people are like, I admire your hustle, Vanessa. Oh my goodness. Da, 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 da. I'm like, yeah, and I still get my 7-9 hours of sleep at night. Like, this is not a game, folks, right? Like, in order for me to be competent and clear on this podcast, I had to get my sleep. Like, otherwise, it just wouldn't be a thing. And so in order for me to show up, well for my client, I need to get my sleep. And then that's what I also work with my clients on. And the thing is that, at the end of the day, you're like, but Vanessa, how are you sleeping and doing the business if like you got to work on it for many hours? It comes down to how you're hustling, right? It comes down to getting to the simplicity of what the business actually is, right? There are a lot of people where you're just busy. You're just doing stuff, but it's not stuff that's actually moving you forward. It's stuff that you're saying, well, I was busy today. I got a lot done. Okay, what, like, I remember I asked her, I was like, oh, she's like, yeah, I got this done and that done and this done and that done. And I was like, okay, but what did you do related to your sales goal? And it was a long pause, right? Because exactly, right? And it's like, that's cool that you edited your website. That's great that you got this image, but how did that move the business forward? It didn't, because you focus on the wrong things. So if you like, and it's one of those things where it's like, there are things that just can wait. Like, there are things that are just not that pertinent, but you're making it very pertinent to avoid the actual thing you need to do. But either way, it's also just like, you're just getting, it's not people's fault, right? You're getting a lot of stuff from the web. You're getting a lot of stuff from Google. You got one person telling you need to be on Instagram like every hour of the day. You got someone else telling you don't need Instagram at all. Just go on some other platform. And so, you're trying to navigate all these different things. And it's a lot. It can be a lot, right? Especially in this information age, it can be a lot. But at the end of the day, my motto, keep it simple, then keep it moving. Keep it simple and then keep it moving, right? And there are lots of decisions that need to be made as a CEO, and you need to really focus on the key decisions that need to be made and the key actions that you need to make, right? And when you do that, you stop being busy. You actually start being productive, right? And you stop thinking that you have to burn the midnight oil. You actually get stuff. Like there's one of my clients is a mother of 3 young kids under the age of 10. Mm-hmm. Work with her. She's a single mother, actually, and work with her on, her calendar, her schedule. And we laid out things and mapped out. We found 18 hours during the week where she can still get 7 hours of sleep, right? And still get 18 hours of work on her product business. Cause she's actually she manufactures stuff in her own home. And we found 18 hours of work, right? And now she's actually moving forward in her business, getting more sales, getting things shipped out. And it's how you're hustling, right? It's how you're hustling that needs to be fixed, right? Keeping it simple and keeping it moving.
Yes, work smarter, not harder, and work.
Absolutely.
You feel me? And that's crazy because it applies to everything, and you are absolutely correct that, people have kind of been given that narrative or message of, well, rich people don't sleep 8 hours a day. I'm like, I don't buy that one, man. And I never understood that. If you work efficiently and just because you're working on something doesn't mean you're actually being productive. Like you said, there's a difference between working and being productive, right? You learn that even with a 9-to-5 job, you can be at work and be doing something for 8 hours a day and you're not really moving the goalpost at all.
Yes.
Or you can be doing practical things, productive things that help move your business forward or move your entity forward or move your work forward, where you're covering ground and making progress. Those are the actions that you should need to do. And if that only takes you a couple hours, then so be it. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that you don't have to work on something 24 hours a day if you get the necessary things done, which is what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Right. And think about going back to the cubicle, the 9-to-5 example, right? Where you have your boss is giving you busy work, right? You don't actually have to do the work, but they're just want you to do something because they feel like you're not doing anything. So they're just giving you stuff to do. And you're just like, why am I doing this? Right. That's the same thing that you're doing with your business, where you're just doing stuff that's just busy work. Right. And part of it is because you're running other people's race. You're like, but this person does this, so let me do that too. This person's at a different stage. They're at a different stage of their business. They have different resources that you have. They're just a different person, right? Don't worry about them. Do you? right? And do what you can for your business, right? And even if you have 5 hours a week or 40 hours a week, just keep it simple, right? Be efficient. Because listen, there are people with 40 hours who are full-time entrepreneurs complaining about time.
You see what I'm saying? And I think one thing you brought up too is everybody has to run their own race, right? Not everybody's going to start at the same starting line. Some people will have covered more ground than others. Some people have different educational backgrounds, access to resources than others, but that shouldn't deter you from still going after what you need to go through. It just means you have to maybe either put in more work or take a different route, take different steps, but there's not one way to do it. The things that are in common is that you have to be willing to put in the work, be efficient, and understand and really buy into what you're selling, and believe in what you're giving out to people. Because in the end, it's business. You're selling a product, and people have to be wanting to buy your product and to purchase it. So I think that's why most entrepreneurs that I've witnessed who either don't buy in or I don't want to say fail, but they don't have the success that they were looking for because they followed a bad formula, right? And that bad formula led them down the wrong path.
Exactly. And it's very, very true, because that reminds me of what there are people who are like, oh yeah, I had 3 businesses. And you dive deeper. They started one business in 1 year. They started that second business 6 months later. And they started that third business like 4 months later. What does that tell me, Michael? That tells me that, first of all, lack of focus, lack of consistency, and running around just being busy, right? Because at the end of the day, if that first business was really what you wanted to do, it's like, there's no idea that's bad. There's no, you can sell chocolate to somebody who hasn't eaten sugar in like 10 years, put a Girl Scout behind it, and voila, the chocolate is sold. Like, it's just one of those things, like, there's no idea that is bad, right? It is how what tools and resources that you're using. Yes. So that you're getting the right marketing out there, you're getting the right awareness out there, right? And you're doing the right like lead conversion or client conversion that you need in order to get people to get the sales, right, into your bank account, right? And there's no idea that is bad. And so at the end of the day, that person who has multiple businesses that they got in like less than a year, there's something up with that, right? You are not it's one of the people make it sound cool. No, that means that person failed at the first business, and then they failed at the second business. And then they started a third business and they're still going with that business, right? And failure means lots of different things. Failure means they realized that they didn't have the heart for the business because it wasn't really something that they actually wanted to do. That's why I focus on people with purpose-driven businesses, right? And because otherwise, like as we mentioned this episode, right? It's a simple thing, but it's also difficult, right? It is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It is a marathon. And so if you do not have the passion for it, if you don't have the heart for it, for what it is that you're doing, you're just not going to make it. You're not going to make it, right? And so some people, the failure is that they didn't do the business that they actually wanted to do. The failure is that they didn't have the right resources, right? And they didn't have the right support too, right? Sometimes also just didn't have the right support. They had just like raised their hand and been like, hey, over here, need some help. And they actually accept the help. They probably would have been in a different place at the end of the day.
How much of also is it people kind of quitting before they even get started? They've surveyed the market or they survey maybe the field that they want to get into, and they say, man, this is so saturated. There's so many people in it. How am I going to make my ground? How am I going to make my stamp of approval? How much of that is people's lack of buy-in or maybe people not believing in their product? How much of that?
Oh, that's a big part of it. Because it's also, you touched upon, like, the one end of it is, this is too saturated. Like, how am I going to differentiate? Like, kind of like, let's say podcasts, right? People are like, oh, so many podcasts, right? And then at the end, you also have people who will be like, there's no one else doing this. I guess this is not a thing. There's no one else doing this, right? Yeah. But at the end of the core, what the core is that you don't believe in yourself enough. You don't believe in your idea enough, right? To bring it to light, right? You don't believe in yourself to be able to bring it to light. You don't believe in yourself that, you can actually get yourself differentiated, right? In that market, if it is a saturated market. Because as we mentioned, there are 8 billion people in the world, right? And actually the fact that there is a saturated market means that there is a pie and there's a slice of the pie that is right for you, right? But guess what? If you don't even make it to the table, you have no chance of getting that slice of the pie. Okay. And I'm a baked good fan. So I like my baked good. So I'm getting my slice of pie. And so at the end of the day, it's like, do you want that slice of the pie? Right? Are you ready for that slice of the pie? Is that slice of the pie what is you trying to get? Right. And a lot of people, there is a lot of mindset that comes into entrepreneurship. And it happens that, like, there are 8-figure business owners, right, who also have mindset issues, right? Mindset is just like a thing that needs to be worked on in any stage of your life and your business entrepreneurship journey, right? But especially when you're in the beginning stages, you need to work on it. It's a lot of support that I provide my clients too. A lot of support that I provide my clients is around the mindset. They call me their like business strategist, life strategist, project manager. Is what one client called me. And essentially at the end of the day, it's because yes, we'll go to the marketing strategy and I'll ask you like, okay, how are you doing your sales? How are you doing your goals? What did you like the action items that we talked about during the last call last week? How did that go? What are you working on, et cetera, right? That's a business strategy, project management part of it, right? But at the same time, I start the call with, how are you doing? Right? Because I also don't want you out here, pulling your hair out, being stressed out, hating the business that you actually want to do to set an example for maybe your kids or to be the first in your family for like generational wealth and have that trickle down, right? But essentially at the end of the day, it's the question is, how are you doing? Because as a solopreneur, you're doing it solo. What does that mean? If you don't show up, no one else is going to show up, right? If I was give the example of a cafe owner, right? Let's say they own a store, it's on the street, cool. One day they decide not to show up. People walking down the street, they're like, oh, this looks cute. They go to the door, it's closed. They don't go to Starbucks across the street, right? Like it's one of the, at the end of the day, it's like, if that cafe owner does not show up and you're like working by yourself as your own solo cafe owner, if you don't show up, no one else is going to show up. And so you have to ensure that you are showing up, right? But what does that mean? That means fixing how you hustle, right? That means not being overwhelmed. That means not draining yourself or feeling like you have to like be exhausted for this passion business that you have. That's what that means at the end of the day.
Yeah, so let's go into this next part then, because you've already gotten there. Just your observation of the mental health toll that it takes on entrepreneurs as well as solopreneurs. What's the problem, and what have you noticed?
The problem is the internal pressure, right? The problem is the internal pressure that a lot of entrepreneurs are putting on themselves, and that internal pressure comes from the race, right? It comes from the race that they're like running other people's race, right? Or they're running with someone else. And at the end of the day, you need to be running the race. You need to pace yourself, right? Yes. You need to be moving your own arms and your own legs and not worry about everyone else like who's running their own race, right? Let them run in their race, right? There is not some sort of like first place prize. People are trying to get to there's no first place prize. You're just running down the beach. You're just running in Central Park. Like this is not oh man, if you make it first, like OMG. No, that's not how, like, first of all, there's money to be going around. So there's that, right? But also too, again, 8 billion people in the world, grab your slice of the pie, right? Get yourself in the game, get yourself in the race. Not that you're in a race, worry about yourself, but also ensure that you are getting the water at the water stations. Should you need the water at the water stations, right? Ensure that, it is one of those things where it's also like a race where you got people on the sidelines. Sometimes there's some people on the sidelines who are not cheering you on. Right? There's some people on the sidelines who would rather have you fail, fall down, and bust your face, right? But there are also other people on the sidelines who are cheering you on, right? And if you don't have that, then get that, right? Like get that, right? And the thing is, when it comes to that internal pressure and the internal pressure that a lot of entrepreneurs like put on themselves, especially entrepreneurs who are starting out, it's a lot of things, right? So the first part of it, you have the entrepreneurs who decide to quit their job, they decide to like, I'm just gonna go all in. It's gonna be so easy. And then they go all in, they realize it's not the case. So then it's a whole lot of financial stress, a lot of anxiety. Like every person they talk to, it's like, oh my God, this person doesn't like sign up. They don't buy my product. OMG, I won't have food tomorrow. And it's just going with that energy every single day. And that's not good energy at all whatsoever, right? And so that's not good. And then that also just creates anxiety and stress and like your body just wearing and tearing as you go through. But then you have the people who, let's say they keep their job, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna do this business. Then you have the pressure of they feel like they have to do what everyone else is doing, right? They go on the social media, they're scrolling through their feed, whether it's Clubhouse or Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever it may be, right? They're scrolling through their feed and they're just looking at that person who says, oh, I'm a Forbes person. Or like, oh, look at me, I'm here. Look at me, all these products that I got. Oh, la la, right? And the thing is that you're looking at version 10.0 and feeling like you have to be version 10.0, right? Mm-hmm. But you don't realize that person, like you're seeing version 10.0, right? You're not seeing version 1.0 because you weren't there that time. You weren't in the entrepreneurship game when they were at version 1.0, right? And so you're seeing version 10.0 and you're stressing yourself out and putting pressure on yourself to be that version, to be perfect, to be whatever quality that you to post every single day, to have images that are like amazing and all this other stuff. And then either you stop yourself from starting, or you just every single thing you put towards your business is like this like stressful thing, this stressful endeavor. This every action is stressful, right? But you're doing it. That's better than nothing, I guess. But like it's a stressful thing, right? Stressful thing that you're putting upon yourself because of this expectation that you're putting upon yourself, right? And someone might be listening to this and be like, "Well, Vanessa, no, like there are other people putting pressures on me too." No, they're not. They really aren't. Like the only pressure that someone's probably putting on you is for you to fail. If that's the case, then they need to go. They got to go. Say goodbye to them. But otherwise, right? The only the other person, like there might be a person putting pressure on you to succeed. But it's not like, they're like, "Oh, you must succeed in like 2 months." Like, no, right? They're just like, succeed.
Exactly.
Right? Succeed,
just get there.
Right? Exactly. Just get there. Just get there. But you have to run the race to get there. And then you have to like run the race such that you can make it to the finish line. If you're running a race and like minute 1, you're literally like, "Oh my God, what?" Like, it's not okay. It's just not okay. Right. And so you need to ensure that you are in this for the long haul, right? That you're preparing yourself and setting yourself up for success as you run this marathon. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is that a lot of entrepreneurs put themselves in that position, whether it be with their thoughts or from the internal pressure, or whether it be with the terrible support around them, right? Where it's a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, it's a lot of overwhelm. And, the fact of the matter is entrepreneurs are actually many times more likely than society to actually reach anxiety or be depressed. And so studies have shown it is like mental health disorders are really common in entrepreneurship space, right? But who's talking about it? Absolutely no one. They out here like, "Oh no, it's perfect. It's perfect. It's great." And it's like, no, it's not. Right. And why is it not? Because you putting the pressure on yourself. It's just, that's really what it comes down to. Right. And don't be that person, right? Fix how you're hustling and be efficient in what it is that you're doing.
And protect your energy, protect all of that, protect your energy, protect your business, protect your mindset, all those things at all costs. Because again, if you have bad company around you, that bad company is going to bring negative energy. That negative energy is going to affect your business and everything. So you need to be able to cleanse yourself of it. I learned that with doing podcasting, right? A very, very, very strong support system who pushed me, right? And the people who, luckily, I really never had to go through this so far. But I think part of it is, like you said, taking the advice of if somebody's not, supporting you, if they're trying to, preach for you to fail, if they're trying to lead you down the wrong path, they're trying to doubt you, what I'm saying? Just cut them off. And that has to be the case in everything, not just in entrepreneurship, but in people's jobs and people's lives. If you have people who are trying to deter you from your goals, you need to have the guts to really say, this person isn't good for my life. I got to cut them out of here. You know what I'm saying? And because in the end, it's your life, it's your business, it's your entity that you have created. You have to make sure that you can really give it your all and your full investment. And you can't do that if you're not in the mind space or the headspace to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that when we talk about, solopreneurship, where you are doing it solo, it's very easy for people to be like, "I'm just going to be in my room by myself. I'm just going to do this by myself." And then you're going through all these stressors and anxiety and all this stuff by yourself too. Right. And that's not helpful either. And so you do need to ensure that you are like, get outside the bedroom, right? Or like get outside, not only like actually physically go outside, and like catch a virus, but like, go outside. I'm like, meet other people, join other entrepreneurship communities, online. There are lots of entrepreneurship communities, Facebook groups. There are meetups, events, all that sort of stuff where you can meet other people who are like-minded and who are moving forward in the same journey that you are, right? And who get it and who understand you or encouraging you as well too, as you move forward.
Absolutely. Now, talk about, you've mentioned this quite a few times, the unnecessary work, the inefficient work that a lot of entrepreneurs do in their practices. What are some of those things that you see that just are like, why are you doing this? And how do people kind of cut that stuff out?
Oh, many things. Where do we begin, Michael? So what I'll go with is actually the main thing, though, is the marketing strategy. I'll say the marketing strategy is where a lot of people go wrong, right? And when I say marketing strategy, it's like, okay, just marketing in general, right? Bringing the awareness and getting people to know you and know your brand and know the product or service that you have to offer them, right? And what ends up happening is a lot of entrepreneurs, especially in this digital age, they're just like, oh yeah, I started my business. I'm gonna start a Twitter account, LinkedIn account, Facebook account, Pinterest. I'm gonna go on Redfin. I'm gonna be all the things. And essentially, at the end of the day, Michael just makes his hand phones. So essentially, at the end of the day, no. But essentially, at the end of the day, it's when you're doing that, it's not necessary. It's not necessary, right? And the thing is that a lot of that comes from you're just seeing everyone else also on other platforms. You're just like, oh yeah, like so-and-so's on 10 million platforms, so I need to be too. So-and-so's on a different stage. So-and-so probably has someone hired. They probably hired someone to be on that platform, right?
Yes.
They probably are not on that platform on 7 different platforms by themselves, right? And at the end of the day, they probably have someone who's like, oh, can you make sure that you record this video with your family, and then send it to me, and then that person posts it for them, right? Or but essentially they don't have to think about what video to post because they already have somebody telling them what video to post, right? Or they don't have to think about what platform to post when because they have someone else doing that, right? Or they automated a system of some sort, whatever it may be. And the thing is, like when you are starting out, you don't even know you might even have a clear idea of who it is you're going after, or who's going to resonate, or who's going to pay you for what it is that you have to offer, right? And at the end of the day, it's a matter of focus, right? Focus, focus, focus. Smart business means focusing, right? It means choose one platform where you are going to try it out for 1 to 3 months. You're going to be consistent on that platform, right? You're going to try it out. You're going to see what happens. You're going to analyze and assess the results that you got and figure out if you want to move forward with that platform or another platform, right? And the thing is, you are doing your day job while doing this business, okay? Even full-time entrepreneurs try to do all the platforms and they're like, oh my God, I can't do it. And so at the end of the day, you are doing your business while doing a day job, right? Your time is precious. Your energy is precious. You do not have time here to be on 7 million platforms. You do not, right? And so stop trying to be. Let's stop trying to do it all. It's just not working for you. And so to clear up that mistake, choose 1 to 2 platforms, right? And some people, they'll do like, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, but I just repost what I put on Instagram. I put it also on Facebook. And that's like, okay, cool, right? What ends up happening is when people are like, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, I post some stuff on Instagram. I do, if I do completely different things on Facebook, and it takes me like 5 hours to develop content for each of them. And it's like, why? Like, choose one, right? So essentially, how do you choose a platform, right? One platform, how do you choose that? It really just depends on a combination of different factors, but it's like, where's your audience, right? The people who you're targeting, where are they? And how do you prefer to communicate as well too? There's some people, you don't like photos. You're like, I'm not trying to be out here on Canva, graphic design and images every single second on Instagram. Then okay, cool. Maybe Instagram's not the right for you, right? Or maybe it is, but you do the IGTV where you're on video and you're recording stuff, whatever it may be, right? Maybe you do stories and that's your thing. But also you're doing videos and recording and doing hashtags, whatever it may be, right? But the thing is that, or maybe you're on Facebook and you're doing live videos because that's your thing too, right? Or you like just building community. So you open up your own Facebook group and just like establish and create a community. Maybe that's your thing as well too, right? But what ends up happening is that it really just depends on where's your audience and finding the cross section between where's your audience and how do you prefer to communicate, right? Because I'm not sure if this got caught in the recording, but essentially in the technical difficulties beforehand. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to connect with senior citizens, like Instagram is not the right for you, right? Like why? Like you shouldn't why you're on Instagram, right? And so it's really just like thinking about just like those things of where's your audience and what is the cross section between your audience and what is it you're trying to do.
Absolutely. No, that's great advice. And those are great steps because I think many people get lost because they try to put their hand in so many things and they don't decide to take one thing and lock in on it. And once you lock in on it, it makes your productivity more efficient and you're able to honestly produce more because you're not thinking about so many different avenues. You just focus on this one and you're able to just feed it and watch it grow more organically. So it's great and practical.
I'm a practical person. People say I'm direct and practical, and when I was moving from, East Coast to West Coast, it wasn't a positive thing. They're like, Vanessa, you're too direct. And I was like, yeah, I don't like fake this. And so, but in terms of in business, it actually is really helpful. And my clients love it because I am very clear and concise, right? You can complicate things all you want to, but it really is really simple, And so let's figure out the simplicity of it so that you can then take action to move forward.
So then, just last couple of things. What are some more of the tools that you kind of use or advise people that you work with to be more efficient? Obviously, there's the productivity and marketing, and don't put your hands into too many baskets, but then, or don't lay your eggs into too many baskets. But then, what are some of the other things that you notice have been useful for people to be more efficient and more effective?
Yes. So it comes down to the focus again in terms of when it comes to your time, right? And so I put time management close because I actually don't believe that time management exists. You cannot manage time. That's a whole nother story. But essentially, I feel free to read more about that in my ebook on Amazon. But essentially, at the end of the day, when it comes to practices that I tell my clients, when it comes to like, how do you work with time and, make the most out of your 24 hours? Because every hour counts, right? And sleep is also important in that hour, in those 8 hours, but essentially every hour counts. And how do you optimize every minute, every hour that you have, especially if you are building your business while you are managing a family, managing a household, trying to keep your relationship together, trying to not get fired from your day job, right? And how do you ensure that you're maximizing every hour that you can spend on your business? And it comes down to these two main important parts, right? Taking care of yourself and also taking care of business. The first part, taking care of yourself, is the non-negotiables, right? It's like, what are non-negotiables? What are the things that need to happen for you to feel good about yourself? Do you need to journal every day? Do you need to meditate every day? Are there, statements that you need to tell yourself every morning? Do you need to have a date night with your spouse every Friday night, right? Do you need to ensure that you're having dinner with the kids at 6 p.m. every single night, right? Do you need to go to church every weekend? Like, what is it that needs to happen every day or every week, right, for you to feel good about yourself? Do you need to go to the spa every month? Maybe that's what it is, right? But what needs to happen for you to take care of yourself and to ensure that you're taking care of yourself and that you are showing up, right, to the best that you can. And then the second part, in terms of taking care of your business, is the thing. As ambitious people, as ambitious purpose-led solopreneurs, what ends up happening is that you end up in a space where you're trying to do the most, right? You're just trying to do a lot, right? Someone asks you, what are your goals for the year? And you're just like, where do I start? Like, I have X, Y, Z, A, B, C. You're flipping the pages and you're doing this whole like 20 goal list at the end of the day. And the thing is, then they ask you again, what do you want to accomplish in 3 months? You have the same 20 goal list. I want to accomplish all these 20 things in like 3 months. Okay, love the ambition. Let's get realistic and not go crazy. Okay, so I always tell people maximum 3 goals, right?
Yeah.
Maximum 3 goals, right? What is it that you want to work on? Maximum 3 goals, 3 short-term goals. What do you want to accomplish in the next 3 months, right? And the thing is, when it comes to entrepreneurship and when it comes to small businesses, it's like, yeah, the big business, like, they're doing a 3 to 5 year strategic plan. And it's like a whole situation. You are a small business. You don't even know what tomorrow's going to look like. And you don't even know like your income, like what, you just don't know that, right? So 3 months at a time, what is it you want to focus on, right? So there's also another system that I tell my clients, green, red, and yellow light system, that I developed and came up with for myself and decided to teach it to them because it was just so helpful. But when it comes to that green, red, and yellow light system, it's every month evaluating what is working. Keep doing that, right? Red light, what is not working? Stop doing that, right? And learn from it, but also stop doing that, right? And then yellow light is just, what is one new thing? Not 10 million new things, not 10 partnership and collaboration, but what is one new thing that you could do the next month that will be enhancing or help you to evolve your business in a way that you want to, right? So green, red, and yellow light, right? To keep you ensuring that you are sane, you are measuring yourself accordingly and effectively, right? And you're taking advantage of month by month, what are the actions that you've taken, being grateful for that, but also thinking about how can you expand and evolve and develop in yourself as a business owner, but also in your business too.
Yeah, all of those are really great points, and just going into having a goal system and having things laid out. One of the best lessons I ever learned in football from my coaches was they used to have us have basically a goal sheet that we had to fill out every off season, right? And our coach really was big on believing in things coming and work best in groups of 3s, right? So what he had us do was he had us have one large long-term goal, and you attain that large long-term goal by setting 3 short-term goals that you were going to achieve and accomplish. And what you notice, and kind of what you're saying, is that when you accomplish the small things take care of the big thing, right? If you say that, look, I want to get to, let's say I want to earn $5,000 in a week or month, give or take. Okay, how are you going to get there? Okay, well, I'm going to set for 3 landmarks that I have to achieve. And those 3 landmarks are going to help me get to that $5,000 landmark. And what you notice is once you achieve the 3 small things, whether it be more clients per capita that I have today that I'm going to have at that point, and et cetera, et cetera. And then you look and you're like, well, that was way easier than saying I'm going to earn $5,000 and you don't have any plan or any goals set, right? So, just being able to write things down, have a system in place and really following that system are all things that people, in any profession, especially entrepreneurship though, where you have a lot of moving parts, can follow, and it'll help them be successful.
Absolutely. That's absolutely three is actually my favorite number. But yes, absolutely.
But just wrapping up the episode, I always try to get every guest to leave a gem, a nugget, if you will, for the next generation, the young entrepreneurs coming up, the young solopreneurs coming up, and people in the space. So just what would be your final message, your final thing that you would want to leave for the listeners and for anybody listening to this?
The final message I want to say is that essentially the first thing that comes to mind is, what Nike says, just do it. And that's the final message I would say is just do it. And, it's one of those things where we started the episode with this in terms of there are people, you're just going through motions, right? You're doing what other people are saying that you should be doing, or you're doing what you think other people want you to do, right? And I remember there was a conversation I had with my mother at many years back. But I remember I was sitting in the college dorm and, and I remember I was just like, I decided to switch from this to that and that. And she's like, okay, cool. You're doing good. You studying? Okay, cool. Just finish college, get yourself a good job. Just be happy. Just want you to be happy. And then it was this weird realization. I was like, oh, she just wants to be happy. That's it. That's what all it is, right? Sometimes essentially it's that's really all the people, your parents or whoever it is that you're listening to, they just want you to be happy. Unless they don't, then you need to move them for your life. They need to go bye-bye from your life. But generally speaking, right, chances are those people who actually matter in your life, they just want you to be happy, right? And so just do it, right? Do what you know you need to do. Do what it is that feels right to you, right? And just do it. Yeah.
No, that's excellent. Great point. Very simple, but it's very effective. People just need to take action. If there's anything 2020 taught us is that tomorrow is not promised. So what better way or what better day to start than today? All right. That's a wrap for Insight. I want to thank my guest, Vanessa Zamy, for coming on and enlightening us and informing us. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for having me. And, I'm not sure. There'll probably be links to somewhere to reach me.
Absolutely not. But go ahead and just plug them in real quick. Where can they find you and what are all the resources that you have available for people to go out and find?
Well, talking about main marketing platform, I'm on Facebook. So I'm on Facebook. You can also find me on Instagram and LinkedIn, but really I'm on Facebook. That's where I'm in every day. LinkedIn, I check and I put you'll probably see Michael's podcast on there. But my Facebook, essentially, Vanessa Zamy. And I actually have a community of, at the time that we're recording this, essentially over 850 solopreneurs, ambitious purpose-led solopreneurs who are also looking to move forward in their business. And there I provide daily business tips that come on live every day as well too. And I give different tips at the time that we're live in this. And I also do pop-up business boot camps. So 5-day experiences where you come on, you learn more about just efficient and effective strategies for your time, for your productivity, for your marketing, for your sales, for lead generation, lead conversion, lead nurturing, all the things. We go through that in depth. Yes, it's a lot. And so you're welcome to check out that community, and to join that community, check out vzamy.com. That's V, then my last name, Z as a zebra, A animal, and money, Y.com. That's what I tell the telemarketers, on the phone. vzamy.com. So check that out and sign up, and looking forward to seeing you there. Chat soon.
Very good. Very good. You can catch this episode on Anchor, YouTube, Spotify, and all platforms streaming podcasts. Thank y'all.